Well, we're in lesson number 118 of the review lessons of A Course in Miracles, the review of 105 and 106. And the temptation after reading these lessons is to do exactly what it says and let my own feeble voice be still. Let me hear the mighty voice of truth itself assure me that I am God's perfect son. And I don't really think there's too many times that we can stop and let that voice speak to us, proclaim to us, and bring that experience to us, because it's in the experience of it. It's in the experience of your experience when you feel the full impact of what that statement means as an experience of your own perfection. And that's God's perfection. We're speaking of a perfection that can't be touched by anything in this world. It goes a much longer way than any concept you can come up with or imaginative attempt to understand what that means within the conceptual makeup of your own existence, in this consciousness of separation where the ego reigns. And the truth is, the experience is everything, and it brings to light the reality of what's being offered to us through the utilization of these lessons, wherein it renders even the concepts of the lessons merely secondary guides, in a sense, utilizable tools for those who have desire to undergo this experience. And it is the willingness and desire that allow these lessons to go past conceptual presentation into an experiential reality. And the convincing, what will convince you is the experience of that reality, wherein which there is no opposite, and which negates this in every way as having any reality. And even in the memory, even if we were allowed to talk about memory for a second, when this experience dawns on you, and it's part of your conscious recognition of your reality as a memory, as a present memory that you can call upon in times of trouble, in times of something that seems less than peace and less than joy, it will bring you great comfort. And that's what these experiences are designed to do, until your mind is free, as it says, in glad exchange for all the substitutes which I have made for happiness and peace. We use intermediaries in this world. It's indirect in that sense. We think things bring us happiness. We think something outside of us can give us something that we're lacking, and therefore we search and seek outside of us for that which will induce the experience. And there are things that will induce an experience, but when the experience of happiness is associated with a thing in space and time, then it cannot not be tainted likewise by the sadness and loss of peace that come with the loss of the item, thing, person, place, situation that we associate with that experience of happiness. Many of us, in fact, many people have had the experience of falling in love because it seems like everything cosmically aligned in a particular moment to bring you the experience of love, and then we attempt to institutionalize and establish that as the means by which we can retain love and hold on to the condition, thereby, in fact, limiting what love is to the conditions that we've associated with in our mind. And these lessons, God's peace and joy are mine, are designed to allow us to experience a love that has no limitations because it's infinite, it's eternal, and it's ever present in that sense, always within us, as the reality of ourselves, to be called upon, to be evoked by joining with its reality within, rather than attempting to find something in the apparent world around us that we could chase in order to think something will bring us that. It just won't. I'm not saying that, watching your child grow up isn't a source of happiness. What I'm saying is that if that happiness is associated with the world and the necessity of you having a child to grow up, rather than the idea that it's a God-given, let's call it a God-given attribute of ourself that is evoked when we join with the God-given attribute of the same thing within the child, then we begin to understand the nature of what we really are, and we will no longer need intermediaries. Eventually, even with A Course in Miracles, Jesus as our teacher, Jesus tells us the teacher only needs to teach the student until the student has learned as much as the teacher and understands and knows himself. And then you're free from the need for a teacher, because you've joined with that teacher in purpose, achieved the purpose, and now both teacher and student are capable of surpassing what it is they set out to do together, and they could begin to generalize that and offer it and experience it in more situations than just the teaching learning situation that we establish when we accept Jesus as our teacher and allow ourselves to join with him, unite with him in the understanding and experiences that this course brings. There's no greater joy in the teacher either than to see the student succeed in discovering that God's peace and joy are his. And he has made that glad exchange, and he no longer needs the concepts, because his reliance is on the self, the joyful, peaceful self that God created to be him in the equality of the nature of our reality with our brother, albeit Jesus may be an elder brother, but we're all created from the same divine substance as divine substance ourselves. And that divine substance has these characteristics, happiness and peace, not as things that can be lost, but as realities that are eternal and infinite. And in that sense, extendable as what we create. So God's peace and joy are mine. Today I will accept God's peace and joy in glad exchange for all substitutes which I have made for happiness and peace. We've actually made the substitutes ourselves, and then give the power to the substitutes to bring us that which we made them for, rather than knowing they're within us, and relieve ourselves of the turmoil, relieve ourselves of the need, relieve ourselves of the labor of making substitutes, and just live in the peace and happiness that is our eternal nature, our eternal divine nature. It's an interesting dilemma, and this is one we've faced since the beginning of time, and which finally, in this turnaround, in the great reversal of time, where we've forgotten basically everything, we begin to remember everything. And we begin to remember and associate that memory with God, with our reality. As we dissociate our reality from the memory of the condition of forgetting, which is what consciousness is. How do we do this? Let me be still and listen to the truth. Let my own feeble voice be still, and let me hear the mighty voice of truth itself. Assure me that I am God's perfect Son. God's peace and joy are mine. Let me be still and listen to the truth. That truth is already within you. Here's a lesson that asks us to remind ourselves to be still. So every half hour, it's sort of funny when you think about it. Every half hour we say to ourselves, let me be still and listen to the truth. Finally, you don't need the reminder because it's all you want. You don't want the substitutes. And your mind, and this is what forgiveness offers. Forgiveness offers us the loss of the need to remind ourselves to be still, because we remove all that which is not still, which prevents the stillness in that sense. We can't have it's the introduction to the Course in Miracles. I can't tell you what love is, but we're going to help you find the obstacles, free you from those obstacles, so you don't have to be told what love is. You don't have to be given a meaning of what love is. You could experience yourself as love. Know there was nothing ever lost. Know that no one's out to punish you, nor can they. Remember that you've been doing this to yourself. And recognize the fact that you are already saved, have always been saved, and the feeble voice of the egoic images are no longer necessary, nor can they confuse you, be they coming from your own mouth, or be they coming from the mouth of one of the images that is likewise a projection of the denial of your reality. You gotta laugh. That's why I'm not a big advocate of repeating the workbook. If the workbook has been successful in you, and you've heard the voice in stillness, you don't need to keep going back to it to remember how to hear the voice in stillness. You just know that hearing that voice, having that experience, is a hell of a lot more satisfying to you in every way that you could possibly have ever imagined before you heard the voice, to bring about in you that which you've always been searching for, but have definitely not been able to find it in the world, except in the exchange. And the exchange doesn't last, and the exchange will never be fair, because it never lasts. An exchange will always be alien to the nature of your soul, because God's peace and joy and happiness were freely given, and the way that you recognize the fact that your being is that is when you have that to give away and actually begin to give it away, because there's nothing here you value any longer, so there's nothing here you really want, and you can utilize any substance at that point. Because if your brother asks you for something, you're not fooled by what he's asking you for. You're not fooled I had a friend stop by yesterday, and he brought me 2 dozen eggs. He wasn't really wanting me to have eggs. He was wanting me to share in his joy and happiness and peace that he's experiencing within himself as he goes about his day with his chickens. In that sense, everything here is a symbol twice removed. But when you know what is real, and you know what there is that you can give, because you know what you have based on what you are, your being, then everything becomes capable of, let's call it, being utilized within the vibratory frequency, within the range of vibratory frequency that you're given, in transmutation, in a sense. That's what they try to do in the Catholic Church. They just don't know what they're trying to do. The transmutation of a substance from a substance of separation to an expression of the union that you're experiencing with God, with yourselves, and with your chickens, and the joy of the fact that there's nothing that you want more to do than to share that with your brother. And so we begin to share things freely rather than to exchange out of need and lack. Now, you want to have a new heaven and a new earth. You set your day, this moment, and let every moment become a moment like that, and you'll see how fast your world will change. You'll see how fast your understanding will change, and you'll see how fast your relationships change as well, and which ones stick around and which ones go, because people are very suspect when you begin to give things away freely with the joy and love that's in your heart, and expect nothing in the exchange except the experience of joy that you get from giving, knowing that you're not just giving somebody eggs. They may look like eggs, they may taste like eggs, but they've been touched by the divine, because all of the substance of the illusion of the world is just mental substance that is malleable in the ability for your heart and mind to make it new each moment in your experience of yourself and in the world that you live in. Now, you get a couple people, 2 or more, joining in that endeavor, and I'll show you how you can change a condition that was previously lacking harmony into a space of divine harmony and orchestration that people will enter into, and they'll wonder, what the hell's going on here? What in heaven's going on here? Heaven and earth cease to exist as separate states, and it becomes palpable, whatever that word is. You could feel it, is what I'm trying to say. People enter in and say, whoa, what's going on here? And then when they ask, the good part is, then when they ask, it's because they're asking out of curiosity within their own self, rather than you telling them what they yet won't understand. Don't throw your pearls before swine. Allow the swine to partake of the divine, and then let them ask, what is going on here, because this is not an experience that I've had before in this world, and I want to know. Then things will begin to make sense, because then you're utilizing your open mind in the way that God created you to utilize it, and helping open minds, which is what this is all about. And when minds open, they're willing, and when they become willing, you can help them know and learn. And that's what this is about. God's peace and joy are mine. Let me be still and listen to you. I didn't do a very good job of being still, I don't think. Still my own feeble voice. Okay, you guys have a good day.